More than 5 million people in the United States suffer from Alzheimer's, and the numbers are growing as the population ages. The search for a cure remains elusive, but Oklahoma researchers are now testing a new treatment aimed at preserving patient skills, helping them to retain a sense of dignity and independence.
59-year-old Ron Grant was diagnosed 4 years ago with early onset Alzheimer's, the most common form of dementia among older adults. Alzheimer's affects about 74,000 Oklahomans and is the sixth leading cause of death in the United States.
Other than hearing something about my children or my wife, you couldn't have told me anything that would have affected me any more disturbingly than this diagnosis.
Alzheimer's is a progressive and fatal disease of the brain that affects about 1 in 10 people over the age of 65. The disease is marked by the presence of 2 abnormal protein fragments called plaques and tangles that accumulate in the brain, killing the cells. Life expectancy for someone diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's ranges from 2 to 7 years.
So here I am, 55 years old, with a diagnosis that tells me if you're real lucky, you're going to live 7 more years. And oh, by the way, before you get there, you're not going to have much of any mental capacity left before you get there. That's extremely devastating.
Randall Lee is a regional director of the Oklahoma-Arkansas chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. He says cases like Grant's are becoming more common. He cites the case of legendary Tennessee Volunteers basketball coach Pat Summitt, diagnosed last year with early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 58.
Trying to figure out schemes and whatever, and it just wasn't coming to me like I typically would say, oh, hey, we're going to do this, going to run that.
Lee says the experience of Pat Summitt is familiar to increasing numbers of Oklahomans.
In fact, I talked with a family today where the person was diagnosed and he's 51 years old. We're starting to see more people in the 50s and 40s being diagnosed, so that increases the element of devastation for the disease.
There currently is no standardized therapy for minimizing the loss of daily living skills suffered by Alzheimer's patients, which is where Dr. Carrie Ciro comes in. Dr. Ciro is an assistant professor of occupational therapy at the OU College of Allied Health in Oklahoma City. She says previous research has focused on medications aimed at easing some of the disease's symptoms.
But what has been lacking in terms of research is any type of behavioral interventions for people that have Alzheimer's. So most of the intervention has been very targeted towards medication. And so this study that I'm introducing is kind of new in its way of thinking of, well, they've got it now, what can we do with them?
Dr. Ciro's research involves the STOMP method, which stands for skill building through task-oriented motor practice. STOMP uses repetitive therapy to strengthen and preserve procedural memory, which is memory on how to perform daily living tasks.
You know, one of the problems we think is that when you have dementia and you start to do a task and you do it incorrectly, then you're coding your brain to do it incorrectly every time. So we're hoping basically we can kind of rewire circuits so this is the correct way of doing this. When is the next time you take that medication?
It'll be after I eat my noon meal.
Okay. What are the times that are listed on the medication bottle?
Okay, I'm supposed to take one after each meal and one at bedtime.
Okay.
So I'd be taking them 4 times a day.
Dr. Ciro hopes to recruit people with mild to moderate dementia for a trial starting in July. The research will be conducted in this 880-square-foot lab, which is set up like a typical home. Participants in the study will come to the lab for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 2 weeks. During that time, they'll practice activities such as cooking, paying bills, or taking medication.
Just for the people that are participating this time, I do believe that the tasks they choose, their performance will be better, and that the families that participate will have some strategies for how to continue to improve their performance going from here out.
Dr. Ciro emphasizes this is not a cure.
What we hope is that they will function better, and by function, we look at things like taking care of one's body, bathing, dressing, brushing your teeth, shaving. or function in terms of being able to take care of your home environment, cooking, cleaning. So being able to do the things that people normally do on a day-to-day basis, they maintain some sense of dignity, some sense of themselves.
To qualify for the study, patients must be between the ages of 55 and 80 and be able to use at least one hand. In addition, a caregiver needs to be able to stay for at least a couple of sessions to learn the training protocol. Anyone interested in participating can contact Dr. Ciro at 405-271-2131, extension 47022. The STOMP project is just one example of research being conducted in Oklahoma in the fight against Alzheimer's. Work continues at the OU Health Sciences Center on a study to determine whether blood platelets can be used to identify patients at risk for Alzheimer's. Research is also being conducted at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation on a treatment that may slow the progression of the disease.
We're one of the few states where Alzheimer's research is being done. Dr. Jordan Tang at Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, as I mentioned, Dr. Prodan. There's other little places and pockets of research being done in Oklahoma. So I'm very proud of that, because in many states there's nothing going on.
Lee would like to see more resources brought to bear on Alzheimer's. He applauds the development of the first National Alzheimer's Plan released in May by the Department of Health and Human Services.
Well, I think the high point is that really the desire to have a cure by 2025. I think if all of the rest of the information is read, that's the one thing that sticks out to me. Now, with that, there's going to have to be tremendous research done, amount of resources spent on research, and a continued effort worldwide for awareness so that people can be identified.
Lee says since research has directly contributed to lower death rates from cancer, AIDS, and heart disease, he now hopes Congress will redirect some of those resources to finding a cure for Alzheimer's.